This episode is brought to you by Hack Motion. Hack Motion is a cutting-edge wrist sensor for teaching wrist motion for compressed tour-like shots. I spent some time with these guys down at the show, and I really enjoyed how easy it was to use, and the calibration time was super simple, and especially the biofeedback option that will definitely make for a more effective golf lesson for your students. You can use it with your iPhone, your iPad, and it gives your students the feel to go along with the reel as you teach the proper wrist motion for better club face control, which, as you know, is huge in the teaching game. Used by some of the top coaches in our industry, Hack Motion is a must for serious golf teachers, coaches, or players. Also, when ordering upon checkout, use the promo code GURU, G-U-R-U, to receive free shipping, which is a $30 value. For more information and to order, visit their website at hackmotion.com. HACKMOTION.com today. This episode is brought to you by nvdhemp.com. So let's talk CBD for a minute. It's all over the news, and there are so many PGA Tour players using it, such as Phil Mickelson and Bubba Watson, to name a few, but there are many others, and now some top teachers, including myself, are taking advantage of this amazing product. But what is it exactly? Short for cannabidiol, CBD is a chemical compound from the cannabis plant. It's a naturally occurring substance that's used in products like oils and roll-ons to impart a feeling of relaxation and calm and to reduce inflammation as well. Now, it doesn't get you stoned, but it has many organic rejuvenating effects. One of my favorite brands is Inveed. Their CBD products come in 3 varieties: Relief, Clarity, and Relax. Relief CBD products help relieve pain and those sore muscles. Clarity allows you to focus on those critical shots or whatever the task is at hand. And Relax CBD products are for those anxious golf moments or those moments in your life when you just need to take the edge off. I would not endorse any product that I didn't use personally, and I can tell you that I've been testing this stuff for over a month now, and it's a game changer. I take a drop of Relax right before bed, and it's helped me get some of the best sleep that I've had in years, which, for those that know me, I'm up all the time with a busy mind, so it's really helped, and I feel so much better in the morning after just getting some deep REM sleep for a change. I also take a drop of the Clarity in the morning with my coffee to kind of get my day started, which is giving me an alertness and a focus that I have never experienced in my life. It's just unbelievable. I also use the roll-on for some sore muscles and joints after a run or a workout. Right now, I have an incredible offer for you. Go to nvdhemp.com and use the promo code GURU20, that's G-U-R-U and the number 20, for a 20% discount for life. You heard it right, 20% discount for life. Go check it out. I'm telling you, it's a game changer in golf and in your life. Now let's get to this week's episode.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for supporting the podcast, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you get updates on all the upcoming shows when they come out. My guest today is my good friend, Jason Carbone. Jason is the Director of Instruction at the prestigious Baltusrol Country Club. Jason is also a member of the Golf Magazine Top 100 list since 2007 and one of the best coaches and also one of my favorite people on the planet, as he is such a smart and awesome coach, but also very humble and almost under the radar, which I don't know how that's even possible, but just because in this day and age he doesn't post a bunch on social, which I can totally respect and I think makes him even more brilliant. Jason has so much knowledge that he's accumulated from years of studying, like we all have, and from other top coaches. As I think when we first met 20 years ago, that you'll hear the story in this conversation, he had taken lessons from about 75 to 80 at the top 100 coaches at the time, which I thought was really, really impressive. And his learning has never stopped, as he's accumulated so much old school and new school information that he shares and we talk about in this conversation, which is super cool as well. As you can imagine, Jason works with a ton of good players, bunch of really, really good college players and professionals, including Ryan Armour, the 2017 Sanderson Farms winner, as we discussed a little bit about his game and what they work on, which is really, really neat. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and get to this awesome conversation with my good friend, Mr. Jason Carbone. Enjoy. All right, Jay, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, God, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've had a couple of cancellations and trying to catch up. We're both extremely busy. I know you're one of the busiest teaching pros in the country, and with one of the best jobs.
Very lucky.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Lucky.
So I appreciate it, and we're gonna have some fun tonight.
Yeah, we got the kids in bed, so now we're good to go. Finally, no excuses.
Go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with just how we met. I think, and you probably don't even remember, but I wanted to take you back to
PGA
basically
show.
what. No, it's long before that. Probably. Well, I know. We'll see. I'm gonna tell the story.
All right.
And we'll see how much of it you remember.
Yeah.
I started at Dana Rader when I started teaching full time in 2000. Right. So it seems, golly, it's almost 20 years ago. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So in 2001.
Yeah.
I signed up for a Jim McLean.
McLean's.
Yep.
That's right.
Jim McLean Golf School, like 2 or 3 day seminar.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of like early in my teaching career, first like sort of big time seminar that I went down there, and was just blown away by like how, because you guys did most of the stuff. Jim talked a little bit, but it was like I remember meeting you and Michael Hunt and Kevin Sprecher.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool because now we're all friends and
crazy.
With me and Michael and Kevin getting into the top 100 just in the last couple of years. It was
cool.
kind of neat, and then you beat us by like 10 years, which was well deserved because I just remember, and I'm just going to just talk about what I remember from that experience.
Yeah,
and then you can kind of comment, but this was pre. Technology, TrackMan, but the Superstation at that time was like super technologically advanced, right? So you had video cameras, and I think we were probably using like V1, and you guys were showing us sort of how you taught, right? You'd video the person out on the range, and then you'd bring it in, you'd pop it on the computer, and you'd go through the analysis, and then you'd do some stuff inside with them. And I was like, just, at the time, it's funny how in certain parts of your career, especially as young coaches, when you're introduced to something new, it's just super exciting and like eye-opening. I just remember coming back from that seminar just energized and like I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? And you were a big part of that. But one of the things that I remember, and this kind of leads me to sort of why you're so successful, is when Jim introduced you, and you probably don't even remember this, and we were probably we were like late 20s, like 30 years old, right, at the time. Yeah. And he said, Carbone is known for taking the most golf lessons from the most top 100 instructors at the time. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah. Jim always said, like, go see everybody, so... maybe he didn't mean it, but I took it literally.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just saw everybody.
That made a big impression on me. Like, at this point in time, and we'll kind of get into sort of how the young coaches nowadays are learning. Yeah. But at that time, that was what we had to do. We had to go pay our own money and either go watch somebody else teach, or for you, which I thought was brilliant, is you go take a golf lesson, because you were still, at the time, we're all trying to be players, right? We're still trying to keep our game up. And that was another thing that impressed me by the staff as much as I know we all taught at the time, is you guys were still trying to play. You guys were still big into like being a good player and being able to demonstrate. So talk a little bit about, what made, obviously Jim told you to do it, but obviously you had that drive and that passion. Was that sort of, and we can get back into, the rest of your career before that and after, but that made a big impression on me.
Yeah, that was, I don't know why exactly. I think pretty much whatever Jim said I did, and didn't even think about it. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed it too. And I think he would always say, he would see the way that Bob Toski would work with somebody, and he would see the way Jimmy Ballard would work with somebody, and just came from polar opposite viewpoints and approaches, and both brilliant, successful teachers. And so I think that was always part of it, was how can both of these guys, be coming at it completely opposite and get, have success. So I think that kind of fascinated me. I think I always felt like if I actually paid and took a lesson and was sincerely honest in I was taking information for my game, that I always felt like there was a better rapport. I felt like, maybe they would be a little more open,
sure,
with some information.
And they're going to give you their best, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm like that to this day, and I won't take a dime from another pro or an apprentice, but if they think I'm going to, then, I'm always going to give them my best, but I'm sure that was a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I remember, trying to pay Bob Toski, and, he wouldn't take a dime, and he takes me to lunch, and, and then I hung out in the afternoon and watched all his lessons, and I'm like, this guy is a legend, and he's doing all of this for me, and I'm just like this lowly assistant at Doral, trying to learn everything I can, and here's this guy, that probably has 1,000 of these requests every year, and he's doing this, and that always just stuck with me as, boy, if he's doing this for me, hopefully down the road, if someone actually, wants to spend part of their time watching me teach, I hope I make it worth their while.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other people that you remember at that time taking lessons from that sort of stuck with you, or anything that you can remember?
Yeah, Ballard was phenomenal. Toski was amazing. We did Phil Rogers. We did his short game school. Went through any Ledbetter stuff. I couldn't actually get to David.
He was one of the few guys that wouldn't let any guys watch him at the time. Was that true?
I think. I don't think there was any way, or I definitely didn't have enough money to whatever he was going to charge. But
right.
To go hang out with the Andrew and Brian Morgan, whoever we could see that was there at the time, that were exceptional teachers, are exceptional teachers. They would do 2-day schools, and I remember going through a 2-day Ledbetter school. Andrew Park, I think, was the instructor.
Wow,
and
that's so cool.
So yeah, gosh, whatever we could find, and then read everything we could get our hands on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which was super cool. And I remember one day, it was raining, and we had nothing going on at the school. I was still an assistant, and had nothing going on. I went to Barnes and Noble and just read every book on the shelf on the grip. I was out of my mind, right? And for about 5 years, I couldn't put my hands on the club anymore.
You didn't know which way to hold.
Oh, it was crazy. But that's just what we did. It was such a cool culture that Jim developed down there, and we would all, I don't know if we were trying to one up each other, but we were competitive, but we were also completely inspired being around him. That it was just whatever we could do to keep getting better, we were going to do.
Yeah. And I want to get back to that, because we're going to talk about the Monday meetings and the training, and then there's some
just
great,
phenomenal.
Yeah, great information and nuggets that were shared there, I'm sure, with a lot of great teachers. So take us back to the beginning. How did you get into golf? Give us some background on your childhood and your family, and then how, I know you went to Bowling Green, so how did you kind of go through that process and then get into teaching?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a baseball player for a long time, and loved baseball. Loved golf a lot, but really thought I was going to play baseball, and unfortunately stopped growing at 5'10", 145 or something in high school, and maxed out the fastball at about 82, which wasn't going to get you very far. And played well my senior year in high school, and got some interest from some coaches. It's so different now. We were just talking about your son and the process, and
Yes.
there were coaches your senior year were still looking like now you're way late.
Sure.
But got some offers, and was actually to be very honest, was using Bowling Green to try and get more money out of Michigan. And for whatever reason, it just felt like the right fit for me, and went there. Played 4 years there, redshirted, and then played 4 years. And then one of my teammates was a guy named Mike Kotnick, and his dad Don Kotnick. Was the golf professional of the year, was at Toledo Country Club, and had ties to Inverness. And he got me hooked up with David Graff at Inverness, and I started, right out of college outside, running the outside operations. And one of our old assistants at Inverness was Chris Tolson, and Chris was, Jim's director of instruction, and so made the connection. Jim would come play an event at Inverness every year, and 1 year, one of the guys bailed out as an assistant, and they had an opening, and they knew I, was dying to get down there, and Chris called, and I just jumped at it. So that was my second winter out of college. I got down there as an assistant. So it's just crazy how things fall into place and happen like that.
So when did you know that you wanted to teach full time? Because I know there was definitely a time when I was a club pro or assistant pro that I sort of knew I was going in that direction. Was there something or someone that pushed you in that direction when you were at Inverness? Yeah,
I think the coach that recruited me to Bowling Green left my freshman year, and so he was the main reason I went. I thought I could learn a lot from him, and when he left, we were kind of on our own in terms of really, getting instruction. I would still go see the guy that helped me back in Cleveland, but when I was there, we would help each other, and I think that was like the start of it. I enjoyed it. I had read, still was reading everything even back then, and could help the guys a little bit, and they would help me, and I just loved it. And then when I went to Inverness, and David had us doing everything, I just knew that when I was teaching, I was happy, and when I wasn't teaching, I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And it was super simple in my mind.
So then you go, and so you get the big break.
Yeah.
And you go and you're an assistant, because I know you guys start. It's kind of I like the way Jim does it, because he sort of makes you guys work to get up the ladder there.
You have to pass his test to just even stay on. Right away you have to pass the 8-step swing test and the X Factor test. I think you can miss maybe 10 out of 200 or something questions.
Yeah.
Just in order to stay on as an assistant, otherwise you're out. So right away you're learning, you're watching all his old videos, reading every book he's written, and having to pass that test. And then we had 20 some teachers there, so there were always lessons to watch by exceptional teachers. So it's like the ideal learning environment.
Right. And so then the Monday meetings are sort of famous.
The Monday meetings were. Jim was so big on learning, not just from golf teachers too, but from other coaches and from CEOs and things like that. So just how to run and inspire employees. And the Monday meetings there'd always be a topic. A lot of times there would be like a debate between two teachers. You take one side, you take the other, even if you don't believe it, but figure out how to debate it, and or go through, and you have to stand up and give one of the presentations that you'd give in a school, whether it was a driving presentation or curveballs or a bunker presentation. And you're doing that with knowing that, there's 20 some people and Jim watching you, knowing what the words are supposed to be coming out of your mouth. And you learn how to speak, which was, just one of the greatest skills.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast, is the importance of presentations and communication, and that's just so cool that I'm sure he knew what he was doing, but how much he inspired you guys and provided those skill sets that I'm sure you've used to this day, because we've done some presentations together, and
Yeah.
you're a fabulous speaker to this day. I mean, I'm sure a lot you probably drew on a lot of that experience from those Monday meetings.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm still as nervous as can be every time I stand up there, but I think you know, it's getting the reps in just like anything else, right?
Absolutely. So what's going on now? So you've left there. I know you had a couple other
Yeah,
big
I
jobs.
left.
You went to Bears Club, I think, right? Or is
Yeah, I did. I from Inverness, I met Larry Dornish and at Muirfield, and he invited me down and spent three summers at Muirfield, and Larry was responsible for getting me to the Bears Club in the winter.
That's right.
And so I did 3 years there, and just felt like I almost needed to just go make my own mistakes. I don't know if I really knew it that way, but I just knew I had to go be on my own for a minute and not, you know, have Jim holding my hand.
Sure.
Not that he did, but I almost just felt like I needed to go
Yeah,
do it on my own and see what it was like, right? And it was a great experience, both places. Larry was unbelievable. Eric Vayu at the Bears Club was unbelievable. Both were just super great to me. And then after 3 years there, Jim, you know, called with this opportunity in Phoenix to run his new school in Phoenix. And he's saying, look, you know, if you want to go kind of step into the big leagues a little bit, you know, there's tour players and mini tour players and brilliant coaches everywhere in Scottsdale. You know, here's an opportunity. And so I did, and it was a great experience because I had to kind of fend for myself there. We were on the opposite side of town. All the action was in Scottsdale, and so, you know, you had to get these mini tour players better for word to get around, or you were going to starve. So that was a great experience. And then, you know, then married, and, you know, now kids coming, and we wanted to be back, you know, kind of on this half of the country, closer to family. And so when Baltusrol, you know, opportunity came, and Jim had called me about it, and Mike Adams, and a friend of mine, Matt Freitag, that you know well from was at Hamilton, now at RTJ, mentioned that it was open. I mean, then I just, you know, went with, you know, everything I could think of to try and get that position, and just became really fortunate that all worked out.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the best jobs in the country, I think.
It's unbelievable. It's just a really special place.
We're gonna get to your little toy box here as we go.
Oh no!
And so many things that you have.
No.
You should be designing teaching buildings by now.
Yeah,
I think,
that would
right?
be fun too. Yeah.
But, you know, let's talk. I was trying to see where I was gonna go. Books. You know, I think that's a good, because you mentioned books, and both of us, you know, we're sort of on that same journey. It's kind of interesting how our careers are sort of aligned, going to, you know, top golf schools and then to, you know, director of instructions at private clubs, but we sort of came up the same way.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of the books that influenced you early on. Maybe you can go with a couple of golf books and then maybe some non-golf books.
Yeah.
You mentioned some good ones, I think, when we were speaking in Michigan a few years ago, that I've read. So, and I'm always curious about what you're reading.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, the golf ones, I mean, I loved the old ones. I loved anything Toski wrote, Snead and Hogan, anything that they wrote. I loved Power Golf and 5 Lessons, but loved Power Golf. Search for the Perfect Swing was a big one for me, which kind of got me, you know, thinking some science.
Sure.
That was, I loved that one, and would read that one, you know, multiple times. I really loved both Swing the Handle and On Learning Golf. You know, the old ones I thought were both brilliant books.
Percy Boomer and
Eddie
Marans, I think. Swing the Handle, is that Eddie Marans? The little pro?
That was Swing the but the other was Ernest Jones, Swing the Clubhead.
Yep,
that's the one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so I loved, you know, all those, all the way. And then Faldo's book. I mean, all the Ledbetter stuff at the time, you know, was big because it just was more technical, right? I mean, to be honest,
time, it was.
Just felt more technical than some of the old stuff that I had read, and so learning how to kind of blend that, or maybe be the teacher and understand the technical, but then explain it like a Bob Tosky would, was kind of the holy grail for me, I guess.
Sure.
And then when you go into probably The Art of Learning is just probably my all-time favorite. Oh, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, yep. Chess player.
Yeah. Golf in the Kingdom. There's so many.
Yeah, it's good.
So many good ones, but The Art of Learning is just a brilliant life one.
It is, yeah, for sure.
What are your favorites? Do you have one or two?
Yeah, I mean, like non-golf. Yeah, I always kind of go back to the personal development ones, like Think and Grow Rich. A lot of the Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins ones. I mean, there's so many.
Grit, yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at my library right now. I could be like, holy cow! It's just you forget half the stuff, but it's like
that's that's a little bit of the sad part. Yeah,
you hope some of it sunk in over the years. But those are all great.
Yeah,
like Sam Torrance's book. I mean, there's some like just weird ones that come to mind for me. Nick Price wrote a book, which is a good one. It was interesting because it was like not the technical stuff was okay, but I like if you go to the back of the book where he actually took all his notes. Like it was the first person that I saw that talked about journaling.
Interesting,
yeah. It's like all the stuff that he wrote down when he was working with lead, and I was just like, holy cow, he was thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah,
and he's trying to play. So it's just just stuff like that kind of sticks with you.
But it's cool to see some of the old stuff and how, I mean, Jim would always say like, look, like fads don't last, right? I mean, it's what are the true fundamentals and things like that stand the test of time, and it's just interesting how hot some things get from time to time, and then gosh, you could just about trace everything back to a book written 70 years ago.
Yeah.
But now we've got ways to measure it, which makes it even cooler.
Absolutely. So talk about that a little bit. I mean, what you sometimes embarrassingly have every single technologically advanced piece of equipment on the planet. You got like 12 TrackMan and four force plates and and everything else. So what do you kind of go to nowadays in most of your lessons? Like talk a little bit about how you're teaching and how you're using technology.
So we're, again, it's unbelievably fortunate. The cool thing about one of the really neat things about Baltusrol is because we're a golf club and people are so passionate about golf that when we're looking at how we can improve every year, whether it's in the clubhouse or in the golf operation or in the performance center or whatever, if it's got a way to help people play better golf, it has a lot better chance of getting passed. So, so that's where, again, a little embarrassingly, but, we've been fortunate to be able to keep improving and adding pieces to the performance center. So we have 2 bays with Swing Catalyst, and the middle 2 member practice bays have Golf Zone, range, their GDR range units that give you ball flight and some video, and then we just built a brand new gym, which then gave us the downstairs of the performance center to do a simulator club fitting room that has all the clubs and shafts and heads and everything that we would need to do club fitting and putter fittings with SAM and quad. And we were able to add a putting green and putt view. So that's the latest, which is just some of the coolest stuff. I
always love walking around the show with you because I know you're shopping. Like we're all the rest of us are sort of dreaming.
Yeah,
But you're shopping, and we were looking at Putt View last year, and I'm like, oh, you son of a gun.
It is spectacular. I mean, I think we're the focus is going to be on the golf courses now. I think I'm pretty much you're
maxed out.
I might be cut off for a little bit, but that's okay because it's really a special facility. Yeah, we're doing okay.
So talk about what's a typical lesson look like for you with a member, or we can even go into better players. I know you teach some tour players and some higher level players as well, but like what do you find yourself going to most? Like is it just TrackMan or is it force plates or what?
I think it's I think it is both. I think the way that I'm kind of looking at it is if you really want to get into like influences and things that like shape everyday lessons,
yes,
I'm looking at is the contact poor? That would be the first thing, and that to me I go into Jim Hardy did the steep and shallow talk, which is that to me is like if you're an instructor, especially a young instructor, like it's a must watch, right?
1990. Teaching
so brilliant, right?
Yeah, way ahead of its time.
And to me, I mean, I think of it in terms of like too wide or too narrow, just because steep has a different connotation to me and shallow.
Sure.
I think of it as too wide or too narrow. And so if the contact's off, I'm kind of going there first. And I know if I give them a wider component or a narrow component, depending on what they need, right? For your typical member, we can get the contact better, just like Mr. Hardy would say. If the contact's okay, but the direction's off, now I'm thinking, the forces and torques talk that Sasha did and Phil Cheatham did was just brilliant. Like that really helped me a lot understanding. A lot of times when either I as a player or someone would say, like, you want them to just close the face. They can't close the face. There's so much force, pulling that shaft and that club head down and in. They have no chance of closing the face. That was a big eye-opening talk for me. So when I see right and left as the main error, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what are the forces and torques that are going on that are preventing the player or causing that miss? And how can we put a different force on that golf club?
So are you just to kind of dig into that? You're talking about like the center of mass, and location, and the handle or the face, and the couple,
wrist face,
wrist conditions,
exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so and then if those two are okay, and the player's in front of me looking to get better, like now are we maximizing speed, right? And that's when you can really utilize Swing Catalyst.
Yeah.
Such a brilliant thing, especially the 3D plate. And then you get into Mike Adams' stuff and how he's utilizing it, and Scott Lynn and how he's utilizing it, Ben Shear, just three really brilliant minds and how they utilize the ground. And so all these teachers that I've seen and lessons and books and all these things. And then it's almost like, to me, it's almost like, okay, well, which lesson am I going to give that person in front of me? Like, am I giving him Hardy's? Am I giving him Mike Adams, right? Am I giving him, Sasho's, or am I giving him Bob Toski's, or, and that's kind of the way that I think of it, when I'm looking at the person in front of me. And hopefully that's, I don't know, maybe that's why I gravitated more towards a big, busy club, is because, maybe being versatile enough allows you to reach more people that way, and that fits the, what Baltusrol needs, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I call sort of in the cracks, right? The genius of the teacher is like making those decisions on the fly of what you're going to do, right? I think it was funny, we had a discussion, I think a few years ago when we were together, and you said, because you've probably done more education and seminars and
maybe Dunnigan. I don't know.
Yeah, you and Dunnigan. Yeah, but the point is, like you said, I've done so much stuff. Like sometimes I'm in a lesson, I don't know what to do. Right? It's like you've got so much information. It's like, now how do I apply it, right? And the right timing of it. So, I mean, what advice would you give like young coaches? Because that's probably where because the young coaches now are so far ahead of us, probably when we were in our 20s.
No doubt,
because of the internet and because of the information is coming so fast. What advice do you give young coaches that want to get better at teaching? I mean,
I think
it's a difficult
always
path.
Said,
because of that.
Yeah, I always said like whenever I would watch McLean, whenever I would watch Jim, he always seemed to just give them the right thing instantly. It was just uncanny, right? Like he's just so gifted, and I always said, look, I'm not that gifted, so I'm just going to be really honest with the student. I'm going to say, look, here's the bottom line of what we need, right? We need the face to be more closed or whatever the case. Here's the bottom line. And we might go through 3 or 4 different ways. And I might give you, a really external feel. And I know we want is external. But look, some people still really respond to internal. So I'm going to kind of give them both. And I might give them a real body-dominated feel versus a real hands and arms-dominated feel. And then I'm just going to say, which one do you think's the easiest to play with? I just
path of least resistance.
And let them almost make the decision, right? And
sure.
And here's the bottom line. As long as we get to the bottom line, we could go Ballard or Toski or whatever, hands and arms, body, external, internal, so many ways. And that's where I think, maybe some of the social media fights come in,
Sure.
Look, there's so many ways, but if we can get to that end result, then we can make somebody better, and hopefully they can enjoy the game.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's where as I always say, the EQ or the people skills are so valuable, because you have to be able to soften the approach.
Yeah.
Right? Long enough to kind of fool them sometimes, and maybe it's a difficult lesson, or I call it throwing spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And I'm the same way. I'm like, all right, we're going to try this. And then I'm not afraid to say that was the wrong way. And then let's pivot. And I remember Sean Foley came and visit a few years ago, and he was teaching, and he told our young guys, he goes, look, don't be afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
That's really stuck. I'm like, exactly. Like, don't be, take a risk,
but
you got to have the people skills to sort of wriggle out of it and go, all right, hey man, we're both in this together.
Yeah.
Let's get after it, and we're going to go another direction. So, and I think
100%.
the learner is going to appreciate that.
No doubt. But I'll never forget, Jim had this article. I don't even know where he got it. I might have one too, but it was this 20-page printed booklet kind of that Tommy Armour wrote. I might even still be able to find it somewhere, but the one thing I will never forget is he goes, I'm going to give you one thing, and I'm going to set 20 balls out, and we're going to hit 20 balls just doing that, and then we're going to reassess. And I don't know, 20 right now, the way everything's going, and with most might be a little, but I'm going to give them like 6 to 10.
Sure.
And I'm just going to shut up, and here's your one thing, here's our goal, here's 6, whatever the number is. And then let's talk through it. All right, what's the feedback, right? Do we need to adjust? Do we need to go a really different way? But still with that end goal in mind. But that always stuck with me. I thought that was just such a great way of being organized and letting the student get over that initial uncomfortableness or newness of it, and let the feelings start to sink in, and then you can get some honest feedback.
Yeah, no doubt. So an interesting question that I always kind of think about is, if we were professors, right? And obviously we're kind of, when we're coaching younger teachers, if we were running a PGM program, like what would the curriculum look like in that class if we were training young golf instructors to be better in our business right now? What do you think the class load would look like, and maybe some of the books that you would give them?
Wow, yeah, that's really good. I think it might be the 101 that the kids that everybody already knows, but like why does the ball do what it does?
Yeah,
right?
start with ball flight, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Because it still comes down to there, and just really understand everything that goes in from the equipment side, to all the as much as whatever little bit we know about the forces and torques that are going on right now, and that'll continue to get better. Just like, TrackMan elevated so much, I think that end's going to keep elevating over the years here soon. But just get into as much of that from putting. Right, and having as much someone like yourself with as much SAM background as you have, and here's why the ball would launch the way it does or rotate the way that it does. Distance control would be good or bad because of X, Y, and Z, all the way up to the driver. I mean, that's where I would start, and just make sure that we haven't missed anything, right? Because if they're missing something there, then the rest is hard.
Yeah. So who you got? Who do you? Because I know Chiz left. Who you got working for you now? You got some young coaches.
Yeah, we have a really, really good guy. His name's Matt Barr. He worked for John Webster at the Breakers. His resume is actually really, really impressive. He was at Somerset Hills before coming to us, and he actually just won Section Teacher of the Year this year. Just was announced like a week ago. So it's super, just an up and coming superstar. And then all of Ryan Fontaine's our director of golf. All of Ryan's assistants teach. We have a great lady, Melissa Zabo, came in and really has done a great job with the ladies programs. And our first assistant, Jan Merkin, is actually, he's going to be an unbelievable head professional, but he's a brilliant teacher. We're just really lucky that the club hires really talented people, and everybody's kind of on this same goal of, hey, let's make this, an amazing place for everybody, members and guests, and you end up getting really high quality instructors that do a lot, and kind of all fall in the same line of let's keep trying to get better and learn and help each other. Sure.
Yeah. Talk about programming a little bit, I think, because I know that we've had, again, this is for a friend, similar sort of facilities. Is like, what's been your most successful programs, schools, clinics? Sort of what's the culture look like as far as what are you providing for your members? Yeah, it's still, to be honest with you, and we offer, every year, it's be my 10th season. Every year we have at least one new program in the summer and at least one new one in the winter, and we try a lot. The winter programs are actually the better ones in terms of programs, where we've got the kids programs, and we have adult ones, the group classes and things like that. Those have indoor space to get people. We do, yeah. So we can rotate them through stations and do a fitness component as well. We have a phenomenal trainer, Anthony Connors, just an unbelievable, brilliant trainer that we were fortunate to grab a couple years ago, and so we can blend that together. The goal ever since I took the job and or at least was interviewing was, we want to make this TPI of, a private facility, have everything at someone's disposal. And whether that means, they just want to, stop 3-putting all the way to, hey, we're a junior golfer that's going to try and develop into a tour player. Right. We want to have everything at their disposal. So it's still a lot of private lessons. I feel like it might be a Northeast kind of culture that, which I'm great with. I'm good with it. I love doing that. Yeah. Where it's just one-on-one, and let's really focus on you as an individual. But we do add different programs every year, and especially for the kids in the winter. That's the big one. Yeah. How much do you get to spend time with your players on the golf course? Is that available to you? Yeah. Try quite a bit with 36 holes, and superintendent and director of golf are great with us, trying to find an opening and jumping out. So yeah, in season when the weather's okay, we're trying to do that as much as we can. And I think, again, just another influence, like, Scott Fawcett's stuff, and being able to share and we brought him in, and he gave a phenomenal
a couple sessions, and being able to kind of talk through that course management in that live setting is really valuable.
Yeah. So what are do you have any games that you like to play on the course, or any strategies, or like give us a picture of like a playing lesson?
Yeah, I think hopefully we're introducing Decade to them, and just talking through and making sure that they understand that. So that's one, and then the one of the great ones is the one that Zach Johnson does with Dr. Mo, which is called Drives and Fives. That's we try and write that down for anybody that's really looking to be a tournament player.
Yeah, go through that. I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's similar to what we do.
So yes, you're going to play. You're going to skip the par threes. I mean, I tell people, look, you can just play them, but you're counting the 7 other holes on the 9. You're going to hit 2 drives off of each tee box, and then you're going to pick those up. And the scoring is, if you hit them in the fairway, it's 0 points. If you hit it in the rough, you add 1 for each ball that was in the rough, or +2 for a ball that was in the sand, water, trees. So you're trying to hit 2 balls in the fairway, which would be 0 points. Then you go up and you drop a ball in like a scoring wedge zone, 80 to like 120. And you just drop one randomly, and you hit that ball up towards the green, and you play it out. So that would be a par 3 on that ball. And then you go up around the green, drop a ball, and you try and get that one up and down. That would be a par 2. So if you hit both balls in the fairway, that's 0 points. The ball that you dropped in the scoring wedge zone, if you hit it on the green and 2-putted, there's 3 shots. And if you got the one that you dropped around the green up and down, that's 2. So each hole's a par 5.
Right. So
and
2 drives and 5.
Seven holes, pars 35 if you skip the par 3s. And Dr. Mo said Zach. I've heard him say Zach shot 30 one time, which is just the most mind-boggling. 7 holes. He didn't miss a fairway, made 5 birdies out of 7 on the approaches, and got every ball up and down. So, that's just a great scoring. Am I driving in the fairway, or my wedge is close, am I putting well, am I getting it up and down?
That's
probably going to be scoring well if you're doing those things really well.
Yeah, definitely. So, I know you're working with some really good players. Ryan Armour.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about him? I think that's a great story. I mean, I just remember you telling me a few years ago, and then you won last year, right? Or 2018, correct?
Yeah.
Sanderson Farms?
Yeah. I think late 17, yeah.
Late 17, yeah. So before that, you were just saying how this guy is just the incredible work ethic, and I think you described him as like, this guy has no business being on tour.
I don't think I said that.
No, it was in a good way.
Actually,
you know what I'm talking about. It was completely. The fact that he just basically has outworked his talent. Talk a little bit about working with him, and any other of your good players that you've kind of.
Yeah, Ryan was just in. He was in yesterday and today. And the thing about Ryan is, like, he just does everything right. Like, I maybe one of these days when he's, further along in his career, I've told him before, like, I want to write a book with him on how to be a tour player, because he just does everything right, from time management to practicing his weaknesses to how he manages finances to scheduling. Like, he just does everything right. And when you're swinging it at 112, you kind of have to, right? Like, he doesn't have the room for error that Brooks and Rory do. And so he has to do everything right. He has to control his distances amazingly well, and he has to be a really good wedge player, and he can't miss fairways because he doesn't have the speed, to hit a 6-iron out of the rough from 200. Like, it's just not happening. So he's just so brilliant at every little detail is done to optimize his ability. And And you don't want to portray the wrong image too. I mean, Ryan, took Tiger to extra holes in the junior amateur and, won Big Tens and has won at every level, right? It was an All-American.
Anybody that's out there that long has tons of game, right?
Right. So he's been good since he was, 14, 15, 16. I mean, he was the man when we were growing up. But he just does it differently than the modern player does now. And it just kind of shows that there's a lot of ways to get it done. But his margin for error is definitely smaller, and he knows that. And that's, why things have to be pretty tidy for him to play well.
Yeah, give us an example of what does a practice session look like for him, or maybe something that we wouldn't know that would kind of jump out at you. So that's different.
Yeah, he's really, really good at almost like he knows the decade stuff, right? So he's going to play and he's going to follow decade, but he's going to practice completely ignoring decade to the point where he's not satisfied unless the dispersion's really tight and he didn't miss left, of a pin, or he's hitting draws and they're all starting right and staying right of the pin, and all his fades are starting left and staying left of the pin and never crossing over, even though he knows what average dispersion is on tour.
Sure.
But his practice is he's so tough on himself in practice that I think that's one of the keys. So he's always practicing shape, trajectory, distance control, right? And he'll do his technique work. Like I flipped on the way Ryan and I go. He's pretty low maintenance, so we'll try and see each other every 4 to 5 weeks. But when I saw him at Hartford,
so you travel and tour a little bit nowadays?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. So I saw him at Hartford just because that's an easy one for me to get to. And then a few weeks later, I flip on the TV. He's still doing the walkthrough drill that we did at Hartford in a tournament. Like, he's just so good about staying with the process and staying on one thing and just getting that one thing better. And he doesn't get off track. I mean, it's probably one of his greatest gifts.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And it's rare. I mean,
they're not all like that, right?
Oh my gosh, no, no, they are not all like that. But again, if you want to be that good and play at that high of a level, and you don't have Rory gifts, these are the little things that make that difference. I mean, how many mini tour players have you seen that if you just threw them on a range, you'd be like, my gosh, that kid's good.
Yeah.
Right? But, what's the difference? What's the little things?
Yeah, it's the inside
and Ryan
stuff.
does those little things so well.
Right. So, does he keep, insane amount of stats? Does he, is it...
He doesn't because I think he knows... He'll look at them for sure.
Yeah.
But he also knows that they can be skewed.
Sure.
He wasn't believing TrackMan today for a little bit,
That's great.
Yeah,
I love that.
but at the same time too, there were probably I was just on my phone with it. And we were doing a combine, and I didn't have access to every number. And I do think there were a couple where there might have been a wrong spin, and TrackMan might have missed it. And he's like, that did not fly, that number. And and I would almost believe him. If it was over and over, we'd have to talk. But that one odd one, I actually think he knew that he was right, and TrackMan missed that one. Because it happens. It does happen.
Yes, the guys that are that good have that feel of, this felt like it went that far, and usually they're pretty close.
For sure. Yeah, so he's really good with that. I think he has his putting drills that he does on Tuesday, and he's got a bunch of them, but there are certain things that make his weekly routine calm him down, create his confidence, and allow him to go in, feeling like he's ready to go each week.
Are those things that you give him, or are they some
Probably half and half.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's always interesting to me. Is like some coaches be like, if I got to give them drills and they don't want it bad enough, or it's like, is it our job to say you need to be doing this exactly this way? Typically, they, like you said, it's probably a little bit of a blend.
Yeah, I think me giving him the drill is more just to keep the same goal. Like, is it a start line? Is it a
Sure.
read, or is it a speed? But just here's a fresh one that you can get excited about doing, so you're not just bored out of your mind doing it mindlessly, even though it could be a great drill.
Yeah.
So you try and keep some of those fresh. But he, like his first year on tour, he led the tour in putts made over 20 feet, and he does a 20-foot make drill. I mean, it's not. It's not accident, right? So he has to make to make 10 out of 30 from 20 feet.
Wow.
And not 3-putt. But I mean, he literally practices that skill, even though we know what the stats say, and we know. But like for him, if he can make one more than someone else, it's a huge, huge, huge piece.
Yeah, well, especially if he's playing from 2 clubs back, right? The stats are going to catch up with him, and he's going to have to make more of those putts, and so
100%.
he's smart enough to get that.
Yeah.
So are you still using the no loft drill? You showed me that.
I do.
I
like that one. That one's always good if we need to get some impact work done.
Yeah, explain that one to the listeners. I think that's been a cool drill that I've used with a lot of mid to high handicappers.
I think it stemmed from, of course, going back to McLean, but Jim would have players hit little half punch 4-irons, and he said, don't let them get in the air, get them, keep them along the ground, right? And from that, we developed like a little step-by-step approach to getting to that impact, where we would put like a foam noodle, the backside of a foam noodle that was 90 degrees to the ground, with like a 4 or 5-iron, and have players just lean the shaft and rotate their body into impact to take all the loft off of that 4-iron and put it flush up against the back of that foam noodle, and then have them do little halfway backs to impact and stop, and can they take all the loft off. And it's just such an exaggerated drill to create 10 degrees of shaft lean, but I'm trying to give them 28 degrees of shaft lean in the rehearsal.
Sure.
And then have them actually try and do like a little half swing, little pitching motion with that 4-iron, and tell them return no loft, don't let the foam get in the air. Get it to slide along the ground, don't let it get in the air. And then build that where we put a ball right behind the foam noodle so that they're still seeing something that's 90 degrees to the ground, and in their mind they're still trying to return no loft and get the top edge of that golf club up against the wall in their mind, which would be the foam noodle. Mm-hmm. And then progress to taking that away. We'll even do one version where we fold up a business card on the front of the make an L, like a 90 degree with the business card, fold it in half, and the ball's sitting on the ground, and the front of the ball is the business card 90 degrees up from the ground. And just seeing the ball almost as like a flat side of the ball, right, 90 degrees to the ground, and returning no loft to an imaginary flat golf ball. And then when we take everything away, we give them that 5-iron back, and we have a flag on the range that's 50 yards out, and have them hit punch shots with a 5-iron that can stay below that flag, right? And so then that's their feedback that they're actually doing it correctly once all the props are out of the way.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just to get the extra extension people that we understand what's happening. And everybody's like, don't try to get a flat lead wrist, but we got some that are like so far the other direction. These the guys with the club members we're teaching. Yeah, people don't understand that are teaching tour players all the time that we can't tell them to go into extension, right? No. So it's more of
just go hit a punch shot. Like you got to go through the steps to get to the punch shot first.
Exactly. I love that. I mean, it's amazing how quickly they change and how they change their concept of how the club should work.
Yeah, and it's such an easy, because there's so many parts to that impact, from body positioning to wrist to club face, and shaft. But when you just say return no loft, it kind of takes care of 3, 4, 5, 6 things at once.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you can think of that you used to teach or used to believe in 5, 10 years ago now that you don't, and you teach that's like changed your concept of teaching?
I think, and this is, I think things with the X factor got completely misunderstood and completely taken the wrong way. And when you really go back and read what was written in the X factor, and you talk to Jim, Jim said he wanted 40 to 60 degrees of hip turn. He didn't say, don't move the right knee, don't turn your hips and turn your shoulders as much as you can, right? So I think that
talking about in the backswing, right?
Yeah, in the backswing. I think that really got blown out of proportion, and I think teaching went in a bad way for a little while there, to be honest with you. And it's really not what the book said. But I do think, that I never used to, for a long time, didn't teach lifting the left heel, and, do it so much now for members that need more length and turn in their backswing. So I think getting back to some of the old, again, going back to the, the Ernest Jones and the Bob Toskis and things like that, and kind of just putting a modern spin on it, that's really helped the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And I know you're again, been to all the seminars, read all the books, the new stuff with the science and the torques and, the alpha, gamma, beta stuff.
Yeah.
How much does that play a part in your teaching now? I think for me, it's like a lot of things that I sort of understand now, but you don't always convey it to the student. Obviously, you're just thinking about how the club's moving and what's being applied to the handle.
Yeah, I think the again, I think that the Cheatham and Sasha's seminar was really helpful for that. I think probably early on when I was teaching, I would look more at the bottom of the swing, and if it was okay, I was leaving it. But once you understand like the transition and how it gets to the bottom, you could see how that might not be a really functional pattern, over an entire round and things like that. So that's really helped, is like, how did it get from waist high to waist high, not just what is it doing from waist high to waist high.
Sure.
Because you could see how some of the forces could influence it, and some of those really crazy shots could happen under pressure, especially for elite players. So that's been a big help. Is there any big one for you from that you think you used to teach to something that you don't now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look closer at the relationship of the center of gravity of the club, or the sweet spot, and the handle, rather than thinking so much of, shapes and planes.
Yeah.
That's a big, like, just the way I view the golf swing and the way the club moves is definitely different. And then now understanding more about how the body moves is a huge one for me. Like, I teach pivot totally different now, spending time with, I just had Dana Dahlquist on the show, and Gankus, some of the stuff that I thought looked really, really strange that they were teaching now makes sense to me, because I understand like what's happening with the ground. So it's just like, it's weird how we evolve. And, I always tell the story about, when I first saw the pictures of stack and tilt, and how I was like, when you're not educated in something, don't judge it until you actually learn it. And I was like, man, that looks crazy. And then after I started spending time with Mike and Andy and starting learning some of the stuff, I'm like, wow, this really makes sense now. So it's like, it's all of that, to where you keep an open mind and try it, right? Study, practice, teach, before you start to judge and say, well, that's crap.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of the pivot stuff's been just massively helpful for me in the last couple of years, of, how there's different pivot styles, obviously, but I never thought I would ever tell somebody to stay back at 4.5, 5. Yep. I was teaching people to slide and shift, bump their hips and, right side bend and all this stuff. Who knows how many back injuries I've created over the years, so learning more about the body and biomechanics has been just massive for me.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I think feels like teaching's getting into this better place where, we can do more footwork and and wrists, right? Like, handle and feet, right? And hands and feet. And,
absolutely.
And understanding and being able to measure that, but understanding what's going on at those two places, I feel like that's kind of the way they used to teach without the information that we have now. So I feel like it's getting into a much better place.
Yeah, I mean, and the second thing, like you said, would be wrist motions. That's, learning the stuff from our friend John Sinclair, of what's, and Dr. Rob Neal, of, what's actually happening, teaching people to use their wrists and square the face properly, not flipping at it or, tossing the club out and squaring it up. I mean, that's been huge, and it just goes right along with, being able to match that up with the pivot. And I'm pretty sure I probably went the other direction so many times and lost the fact that, the club face was not in a good position to actually work on that.
Right.
So, it's just been, in sequencing and all this stuff that we kind of gather over the years. And after you start testing it, it starts to make sense. It's funny. I think about that when we were at Michigan a few years ago, speaking at the teaching summit up there. I think you just got back from watching like Jeff Smith and Joe Mayo and those guys teach, and you were kind of showing me, how they're kind of letting the wrist angles out and the club heads. And I'm looking at you going, that's crazy. And now I'm teaching it, right? So that's a perfect example right there. I'm like, it didn't make sense, but of course I'm going to file that away because I know these guys are really good, and I'm going to go, all right, let's figure out why that works.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it? I mean, that's the cool part too, is when you have guys like that and people that you've been around and Dana and on and on and on that are willing to have people come and watch and share their information. I mean, that's hopefully there's just a lot more of that down the road and less of the bickering back and forth stuff.
Yeah, I think for the most part it's moving in that direction.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have a common goal, and we're trying to help each other out in the seminars and
sure, like
you said, the people shadowing. It's just and that's what we're all about. I mean,
definitely.
I'm honored when somebody says, "Hey, can I come watch you teach? Can we spend some time together?" I'm like, absolutely, because I'm going to pass on whatever I've learned because I'm fortunate to get it
100%
from guys like you and all the people we've learned from.
Yeah.
So what? Here's a question. What does success mean to you?
Ooh,
that's always a good one.
Ooh, that is a good one. Success means wow, I really thought of it that way.
Would you view yourself as successful right now?
No.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, it's probably. I was just going to say it's probably because I don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Most
of the great ones will say that because we're not done yet. You know what I mean? Like we're still on that path.
But that's the part that I love, right? Like it's not. I mean, the learning and the finding different ways. Like Pete Cowan, was at our PGA Championship working with everybody on the planet in 16, and I got to talk to him for a little bit, and he said, I feel like I don't have all the answers, but I feel like I'm getting a little closer. And, when you hear somebody that's that good say something like that, like it's a little comforting, but that's
right.
Like I feel like there's just this never ending search for more and more answers. I feel like there's still more out there that we can tap into that is going to help people get better. And so like, that's the, I don't think about it any other way except keep searching for that.
There you go. Yeah, and I think that I heard I don't know, one of the CDs I used to listen to 100 years ago, the high performers, if you ask them that question, is like, how much do you feel like you've learned? And usually they're like 30%. And that's kind of what I feel like I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Now somebody might view the fact, oh, you're really smart or you know all this stuff. I'm like, no, there's so much more.
So much more.
Where it's a mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the person that maybe thinks they know more or thinks they know it all.
Yeah.
That's I think a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, just you could put all the cliches in the process part of it, but I mean that it's not, you don't even think of it that way, right? I mean, that's just the part that gets you up in the morning that is the cool part. Yeah.
What do you love about teaching? Well, where's the passion come from, and why would you keep doing it every day?
I love the problem solving to me, right? Like the missing variable, and can I pluck the missing variable, and say it the right way that it fits into the equation and solves the problem. I mean, that to me is the part that's always driving me.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So what's a stress reliever in your world right now? If you get stressed out, overwhelmed, any go-tos? Any new tactics or habits that you could share?
No, I mean mine. I don't get to do it much, but if I got 20 or 30 minutes to go hang out at the short game area or go hit like that, practicing to me is still my number one meditation technique without meditating. Like
I get it.
That's it for me. Like I can get lost if I can, there was a day, it was the 4th of July, my wife had the kids out of town, I had all by myself, it was the 4th of July, there was 0 people at the club, I had the entire place to myself, and it was like the most relaxing hour. It was unbelievable. So I mean that's still my go-to, and I mean look, you pick up your 2-year-old daughter, I mean, things get pretty good pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're the mayor of Pound Town, man.
I wish.
That was a lot of fun when you came.
That was fun. Man, Scott Cox is great, isn't he?
He's so good. Yeah. I mean, that's I tell people, shout out to Scott.
Yeah.
That was one of the best applications that I think I've gotten in the last several years.
Yeah, just a really smart guy and a really well organized couple days.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Last question.
Uh-oh.
You know what's coming.
I don't.
If you had a gigantic billboard.
Oh, it's the billboard.
Anywhere with anything on it, what would your billboard say? I know you got some great quotes or some things you live by. What's the message that you want to get out to the rest of the world?
I mean, I think the thing I think I would put, if I was trying to just be like concise and then it could have multiple meanings, I think I would just put like look around, right? And that can mean so many different things.
Sure.
It could mean like take a second and just, enjoy life, but it could also be like, look, we're in, there's people around you. Like, let's act in this,
stop looking at your
act
phone.
like we're actually in this together. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I
think that's probably the thing that drives me nuts the most is, just really selfish acts. So that's probably what I would put. I would just put look around and let it mean different things for different people.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Dude, thanks so much for taking the time and coming on. I know you're not huge on social media.
Yeah.
I wish you would share a little bit more of your brilliant knowledge and stuff, but if somebody wanted to say hello and get a hold of you, I know you're on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I've mainly been trying do a little Instagram, and then it's linked to like Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think it's J Carbone PGA.
Okay.
So good way to reach. I mean, I really do enjoy seeing a lot of stuff that's on there. I don't know. I don't know why. For some reason, I feel like it's a little bit of a invasion of privacy for students.
Sure.
I should just post stuff without students is what I should start doing, and just whatever the tip is or something like that. Maybe that'll be the plan going forward.
Yeah, you got so much to share.
Yeah, the 3 kids too. I mean, it's just you got to prioritize time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd probably be the best place to reach out. And thank you for having me on. I mean, I've so enjoyed listening to and watching this podcast continue to grow and all the great people you've had on. So it's truly appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I'm glad we got to do it. And I love you, and thank you for being such a great friend and mentor over the years. And just keep up the great work, man. I appreciate it.
Same to you. Really appreciate the friendships.
Absolutely, buddy.
All right, my man.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Jason for coming on the show and sharing his incredible knowledge about teaching and life that I know will help all of you become better coaches and better people, as well as I know I have through our friendship together, which I'm very, very fortunate to say that he's a good friend. Make sure you follow Jason on the gram and Twitter. We'll see if we can get him to start posting some more stuff at jcarbonepga on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you again for our amazing sponsors, nvidhemp.com, and make sure that you do your CBD shopping at nvidhemp.com or nvidhempgolf.com. Either one works, and use the promo code GURU20 for that 20% discount for life, which is an awesome savings. Also, thank you to Hack Motion, the wrist sensor training aid. Make sure when you buy that awesome training aid that you use the Guru promo as well. So just put in GURU for that one. Give me a follow and reach out to me on the Twitter and the gram at Golf Guru TV. Let's see if I can get my followers up. I don't got enough followers out there. I want to be able to share this information, share this podcast. Thanks so much for everything. Make sure you go to the App Store as well and download the Golf Guru app for you golfers out there that want to get better, that can't work with me at Carmel. You can check that out. Also, check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. And if you have a question for the show or a comment, hit me up on the DM, of course, or just send me an email at golfgurushow@gmail.com. Also, leave me an iTunes review. That would be cool. 5-star rating would be even better. Thank you for that. For those of you that have already left reviews, I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening. And as I leave you with, make sure you study, make sure you practice, make sure you teach, and then more importantly, pass it on. Thank you for listening. I will talk to you next time.